A petition may only be presented to the Senate by a senator who shall affix his name at the beginning thereof.
Go ahead, read the petition. Yeah.
Your Excellency, I have a petition from my constituents, Colonel Gabriel Adetuji, retired, and 37 other officers and soldiers who were unjustly arrested, tortured, and convicted for the 1995 Phantom Coup plot saga. The said officers are praying the intervention of the Senate on their demands for promotion and compensation, especially following the gazetted unconditional pardon by the then head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, on 14 February 1999, via Federal Republic Official Government Gazette number 33, volume 23 of 16th May 1999. With your permission, Your Excellency, may I lay the petition?
Yes, come and lay the petition. Petition referred to ethics and privilege, report back in 2 weeks. Senator Agege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ovie Omo Agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I have 2 petitions.
All from Delta.
All from Delta.
Thank you.
The first one, Mr. President, is from my constituent. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Abdul Fatai Mohammed. The petition is dated 15th of May 2017, and it is against the Nigerian Army. He is requesting for investigation of unlawful and malicious compulsory retirement from the Nigerian Army. Mr. President, that's the first one. The second petition, Mr. President, is also from another constituent. Emeka Uche Bulam, on behalf of 5 communities in Delta Central Senatorial District. And the communities are Emedaja, Ubogo, Ekota, Okoro, Waterside, and Udu local government area. Mr. President, this petition is dated the 21st day of June 2017, and it is against MPDC. It is alleging refusal of cleanup and payment of compensation for oil spillage. Mr. President, I seek your indulgence and permission to lay the same before the Senate. I thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, come and lay the petition.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Petitions referred to ethics and privileges, report back in 2 weeks. Yeah, Senator David Moro.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is David Umaru, representing Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have a petition from one Dr. Ocheruo Matthew Chooks, who is my constituent. His petition actually is against the Nigerian Immigration Service, and it complains of the refusal of the Controller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service to act on the Civil Defense, Fire, Immigration, and Prison Services Board on his actual date of retirement and payment of accrued entitlements, salaries, and allowances. No judicial intervention.
Come and lay the petition. Petitions referred to ethics and privilege, report back in 2 weeks. Senator Benjamin Wajumogu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Benjamin Wajumogu. I represent the people of Imo North. I have a petition from Dr. Matthew Echeruo. The petition is against the Controller General of Immigration for his refusal to grant him his retirement payment, which have been overdue. With your permission, Mr. President, I will lay the petition.
Come and lay the petition. Petition is referred to Ethics and Privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Point of order, John Eno.
Mr. President, my name is John Owen, Eno, Cross River Central. Mr. President, my point of order is order 43.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll read. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate. When is leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, on Thursday the 13th last week, a delegation of the Mbembe People's Assembly from Obubra local government of Cross River State in Cross River Central came to the National Assembly on a peaceful protest. The main highlight of that visit was a protest, that was centered on the hostilities and the crisis between the people of Osopong in Obubra local government and their neighbors of Ebonyi State. Now, it will be a failure of representation on my part.
Distinguished colleagues, there's too much noise in the chambers. Distinguished colleagues, there's too much noise in the chambers. Senator Darie. Yes, Senator Darie.
Yeah, Mr. President, if I don't bring this to the attention of the Senate, it will be a failure of representation on my part. For the past 2 years, I think that between me and the two senators representing Ebonyi State, on that axis, Senator Sam Egu and Senator Bina Ogra, have actually been involved in a few efforts on our part, trying to visit those areas each time there has been an outbreak of hostilities and war. And I think that in Cross River Central, the two local governments that are involved are actually Abdi local government and Obubra local government. Whereas in Ebonyi State, you have Iko local government and Izi local government. These two local governments are represented by two senators in Ebonyi State, whereas in Cross River I represent those two local governments. Now this crisis has remained festering. This crisis has gone on unabated, almost on a weekly basis, and besieged with too many complaints and text messages about people being killed, about property being destroyed, about communities being sacked as a result of the crisis that has continued to exist. And I think that in the past, various committees have been set up. The joint committees between the two states, National Boundary Commission, Federal Office of Surveys have met and have made recommendations to the National Boundary Commission about the need to properly delineate the boundaries between these two states. I'd like to join my voice that while this is not done, while this is not implemented, that there is a toll in terms of the number of people that are losing their lives, in terms of people that are displaced, in terms of communities that are lost as a result of this. And that it's important and imperative, and it needs to be done now. This crisis predates almost 1988, and it's continued almost on a weekly basis. And I think that I'd like to call the attention of this agency that this needs to be done. Each of the times there are a lot of accusations about complicity on the part of security agencies. It's important to also call on the IG of police, on the chief of defense staff, on various heads of security agencies about the proper conduct in terms of the relationship and in terms of the handling of boundary disputes and crises between communities. And I think that if all these are taken and are done, I think to restore peace and harmony in these neighboring states. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. General. So the chairman of the relevant committees will take those your comments, observation, and look into the issues. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Suleiman Hungui on the National Information and Intelligence Database Establishment, etc. Bill 2017. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Information and Intelligence Database Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 529, first reading.
National Information and Intelligence Database, etc. Establishment, Bill 2017, SB 529, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Stella Odua on the harmonized retirement age of the staff of the National Assembly Service Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, harmonized retirement age of the staff of the National Assembly Service Bill 2017, SB 534, first reading.
Harmonized retirement age of the staff of the National Assembly Service Bill 2017, SB 534, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Foster Ogola on the Demutualization Bill 2017. Mr. President, may we wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Demutualization Bill 2017, SB 531, first reading.
Demutualization Bill 2017, SB 531, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Atai Aidoko on the Nigerian Communications Commission Act 2000, Amendment Bill 2017. Mr. President, may we wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Communication Act, CAP N97, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2017, SB 531, first reading.
Nigerian Communication Act, CAP N97, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2017, SB 531, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of the House Bill standing in my name on the Data Protection Bill 2017. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Data Protection Bill 2017, HB2, first reading.
Data Protection Bill 2017, HB2, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Capital Market on the Chartered Institute of Capital Market Registrar Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Foster Ogola, the chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Foster Ogola.
I'm Senator Foster Ogola. I represent Bayelsa West and acting in the position of chairman of the Senate Committee on Capital Markets. I hereby move that the Senate do receive the report on the Chartered Institute of Capital Market Registrars, Establishment, etc., Bill 2016. 2016, started last year.
2017.
Yeah. SB 25. I hereby so move.
Senator Yusuf, Taraba Central.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf. I represent Taraba Central. I want to support that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Capital Markets on the Chartered Institute of Capital Market Registration Bill 2017 SB25. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Capital Market on the Chartered Institute of Capital Market Registrar Bill 2017 SB25, those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Foster, come and lay the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on INEC on the screening of 12 nominees for appointment for resident electoral commissioners for the Independent National Electoral Commission. The nominees are 1. Dr. Mrs. Asma Usani Mekudi Katsina, new appointment. 2. Sam Olugbadebo Olumekun MNI on-door appointment. 3. Dr. Mahmouda Isa Kebi, new appointment. 4. Ambassador Dr. Rufus O. Akeju, Lagos, reappointment. 5. Professor Riskua A. Shehu, Sokoto, new appointment. 6. Barrister Kashim Ganagaidam Yobe, reappointment. 7. Jibrin Ibrahim Zarewa Kano, reappointment. 8. Abdul Ghani Olayinka Raji Oyo, new appointment. 9. Professor Samuel G. Egu Kogi, new appointment. 10. Barrister Mike A. Igini, Delta, reappointment. 11. Professor Mustafa Zubairu, Niger, new appointment. And 12. Ahmad Bello Mahmoud Zamfara, new appointment. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Sulaiman Nazif, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Sulaiman Nazif.
I thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Sulaiman Mohammed Nazif, and I represent Bauchi North. I rise to move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the screening of 12 nominees for appointment as resident electoral commissioners to be laid. I so move.
Senator Mohammed Hassan, Yobe South.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I am Mohammed Hassan. I represent Yobe South. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the screening of 12 nominees for appointment as resident electoral commissioners. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the screening of the 12 nominees for appointment as resident electoral commissioner as read by the leader. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Nazir, come and lead the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very respected colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Chukwuka Utazi on the dire implication of the suspension of Nigeria from the Egmont Group of Financial Intelligence Units. Mr. President, you may wish to invite very distinguished Senator Chukwuka Utazi to move his motion.
Senator Utazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu State. I represent good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, I rise to move the motion on dire implications of the suspension of Nigeria from the Egmont Group of National Intelligence Units. Mr. President, this Senate notes that the Egmont Group is a network of financial intelligence units and is the highest intergovernmental association of intelligence agencies in the world, with about 152 member countries or state parties who sit regularly for the purpose of sharing criminal intelligence and financial information bordering on money laundering, terrorism financing, proliferation of arms, corruption, financial crimes, economic crimes, and similar offenses geared towards the support of local and international investigations, prosecutions, and asset recovery. This Senate informed that the agencies that benefit from the activities of Egmont Group include the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Nigeria Customs Service, the ICPC, the EFCC, the Nigeria Immigration Service, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and many other relevant governmental agencies, in addition to facilitating the oversight responsibilities of the National Assembly. The Senate informed that at its July 4, 2017 meeting in China, Nigeria's Financial Intelligence Unit, the agency of the government that represents Nigeria at the meeting of the group, was suspended till January 2018 with a threat of an expulsion if Nigeria does not meet the standards of the group with regard to its operations. The Senate informed that the Egmont Group suspended Nigeria for a number of reasons, including A, that Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, which is the body that represents Nigeria in the group, has not been granted operational autonomy, and the unit is still domiciled within the FCC, a situation the group has objected to over the years. And the admission of the NFIU into the Egmont Group in June 2007 was on the basis of a resolution by the EFCC board and not this National Assembly. But the group made it clear that it is a condition of continued membership for NFIU organs and operation to be autonomous from the EFCC. B, the medicine-ness of the acting chairman of the EFCC in the affairs of the NFIU by his interference in the operations and staffing of the unit, leading to the departure of many competent hands. C, the divulging of confidential information concerning the activities of the Egmont Group, which are given to newspaper houses. This Senate aware that by virtue of our membership of the group, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, enjoys the benefit of the privileged information which the members of the group share among themselves. This intelligence sharing is crucial to the universal and local war against corruption, money laundering, terrorism financing, financial and economic crimes, etc. For example, by virtue of our membership, Nigeria relies on the Egmont Group for assistance in the investigation of the crimes listed above, as all bank accounts and other assets of suspects are made available to the country
whenever they are located in the world. This Senate informed that one of the immediate effects of Nigeria's suspension from the group is that the Edmond Secure Web, ESW, is currently shut down against Nigeria. The implication is that Nigeria can no longer exchange sensitive information with other member countries in order to carry out our investigative and regulatory responsibilities as they affect local and international investigations. This Senate observed that apart from the suspension of Nigeria this July, the group has given Nigeria up to December 2017 to address the issues raised in the suspension or be expelled, which will attract international sanctions against Nigeria's financial system. Nigeria can ill afford to be blacklisted, as the implications are dire, not only to our aspiration for membership of the Financial Action Task Force, into which so much energy, time, and resources have been invested, but the country will also be listed in the G8 list of non-cooperating countries and territories, NCCT. This Senate informed that if expelled, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC, Implementation Review Group, will be served a notice against Nigeria. And most countries, including the United States, the UK, Germany, Switzerland, etc., will alert their financial institutions and services through the issuance of advisories, such as the Financial Criminal Enforcement Network Advisory and Foreign Assets and Cash Directive, to warn them to apply extra care and diligence in transacting with Nigeria and Nigerians. The huge political and economic implications of such action is better imagined. An expulsion might also, under certain conditions, attract the imposition of financial transaction limits, including the withdrawal by certain countries of scholarship to students of Nigerian origin. This Senate concerned that this sanction will necessitate that Nigeria will undergo the process of fresh application, which takes years to accomplish, in addition to subjecting Nigerian financial standards to a total and strict review by international bodies such as the World Bank and IMF. An asset recovery or repatriation to Nigeria can be slowed down or even stopped, and all painstaking efforts for the full membership of Financial Action Task Force will be in vain if this suspension is not quickly reversed. This Senate concerned that the valiant efforts of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes to avoid this suspension, including leading the delegation to many meetings of the Financial Action Task Force here at OECD Secretariat in France, to impress upon them Nigeria's readiness and willingness to be accorded full membership, were not implemented by the executive branch, especially the recognized three-line ministries of Justice, Finance, and Interior, and repeated pleas and correspondences for action to avert this suspension went unheeded. This Senate concerned further that in view of the non-cooperating stance of the executive branch, the legislative branch will have to urgently leverage on its institutional mechanism to ensure that Nigeria's suspension from Egmont Group is reversed. It is all the more urgent considering the December deadline given to the country to comply to avoid expulsion, and also considering the imminence of the annual recess of the national legislature, and in view of the scheduled visit by the FATF high-level mission to Nigeria in November 2017 to appraise Nigeria's preparedness to be granted the status of observer and thence membership of FATF, especially with regard to the needed coordination between the three-line ministries of Justice, Finance, and Interior. This Senate notes that the granting of the requisite autonomy to the NFIU has been aggressively and progressively resisted by the FCC, and that the committee, in order to provide the needed autonomy for the NFIU to meet its primary mandate, technically and logistically, consider the budget of the NFIU separately from that of EFCC in the 2017 budget. But for the non-provision of budget subheads by the Budget Office and the reluctance of EFCC to do the administrative necessity required. Accordingly, this resolves to pass a law creating a substantive and autonomous Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, and make the unit legally and operationally autonomous with powers for the employment, reward, training, promotion and discipline of its workforce independently. 2, empower the NFIU to, in line with international best practices, exchange and relate with all countries on issues affecting its mandate at the bilateral and multilateral levels. 3, urge the 3-line ministries of Justice, Finance and Interior to do all within their powers to ensure that Nigeria's suspension is immediately reversed and ensure that all conditions specified by the Egmont Group are met to readmit and improve Nigeria's standing within the group while increasing their levels of cooperation and coordination to ensure that Nigeria achieves the membership of FATF as expected. 4, urge the executive branch to include in any supplementary budget estimate that may be presented to the National Assembly before the end of the year a separate budget for NFIU in view of the need to lift the suspension of Nigeria as soon as possible. Mr. President, I know that with this motion moved here today, that the fireworks will begin. And the fireworks that will begin will come from 3 places. Number 1 is the hired hand of the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, led by no less a person than Professor Issa Sage, who doesn't believe that anything good can come from this parliament, who believes that he is the only person that has the knowledge and not understand the law and will turn things upside down because he doesn't have good intention of the National Assembly. The number 2 is Mr. Femi Falana, the senior advocate, and the Stormy Petre, who will also come up against these issues, the general efforts we are making here to make sure that things work. But we are not going to renege. This is the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and we are going to live up to the billing of this body and ensure that we do things rightly. The 3rd is the hired and sponsored media critics of the Senate and the NAS as a whole, who maybe tomorrow will be hired to appear in the television houses to turn things upside down instead of addressing the issue that is before here. Aware of this effort, I'm also aware that they are aware that the efforts of the 7th Assembly under the chairmanship of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption here, my friend, distinguished Sumonla, he did so much in the 7th Senate, I was told, to get these things done here. But the powers that be turned it upside down. And here we are. The thing that should have done the 7th Senate, if it was done, followed by what the chairman of that committee did, would not be where we are today. And I'm also aware that the efforts of Steve Orosoya and his Presidential Advisory Committee, they did make several efforts to get things done here, but it was also thwarted by the people who don't believe that things should be done. I'm also aware of the coalition of the civil society organizations in this direction, making effort to ensure that we will not have this come to this sorry pass, which we are today. But people from the EFCC didn't believe that it should be done. Having been, what is at stake, Mr. President? What is at stake is that the international funding of the international funding of that comes to the NFIU. Because of so much money is coming there, many people who are interested do not want EFCC for one, does not want this thing to go away because of the funding. But we have to rise above before the funding which comes in there, which my committee very soon, of course, is going to look into, to know how all the monies that have come to the NFIU have been utilized to get things done, and to see the reason why we are in this sorry pass we have found ourselves. We are also going to ask the privileged information that comes from this NFIU. Nigeria has already signaled what they want. I want us to know all these things, so that you have be aware of what is before us here, so that all of us should rise in one unison and fight and ensure that things are done properly. We look for administrative membership of NFIU, not enforcement. And having said such, Mr. President, I am asking my colleagues to join and rise in one voice and say, understand by this that we are going to ensure that this motion passes, and then a law put in place to give independence, the autonomy which the Egmont Group demand from us to ensure that Nigeria returns to the path of normalcy. I so move.
Yes, Deputy President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. This matter is very simple and straightforward. First, I remember that there was a huge debate on this matter in the last Senate. The NFIU used to be a department in EFCC. So what they do is to gather financial intelligence about bank transactions. And because they get international funding and they are very influential, so there was a huge debate where to domicile it. Is it in the CBN? Is it in the Office of the Attorney General or NSA's office? So there was agency rivalry on where to domicile this. And so eventually, I believe the last Attorney General, because EFCC reports to them, also was able to help the EFCC to domicile it in the FCC. Now, the problem now, which is what the Egmont Group is complaining, is that the EFCC, all the staff of NFIU are all from EFCC. And they believe that it's not right. You can't be giving yourself the necessary information you require. So they are supposed to be sufficiently independent. So I think what we need to do at this moment is, if we direct the committee to call a meeting of the stakeholders, namely the CBN, the Attorney General's office, the ICPC, EFCC, and the NSA's office, probably even DSS. Let them sit down and look at the best practices, where are these things domiciled in other jurisdictions. Because in several countries, they are domiciled in different government agencies. So, but if we now have an aggregate and see the preponderance, and then we can now come back and have an informed decision on what to do going forward. Because that is just essentially what the Egmont Group is complaining, that this is domiciled in the FCC. And assuming that the staff there are all independent, that would be a different kettle of fish, but there are staff seconded from the EFCC, and that's what is causing the problem. It creates undue influence of the EFCC on the NFIU. So I think the best thing to do is to call all the people who benefit from this, to let us sit down and agree on the best place to situate this. Once that is done, I'm sure that they'll leave the suspension.
Yes, Susan.
Mr. President, I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sani to add my voice to this motion. Mr. President, Egmont Group is one international institution that serves as a compass to nations that are committed towards fighting corruption. If actually we are serious about fighting corruption, it must be done smartly and intelligently. Intelligently in the sense that we must belong to internationally acclaimed groups like Egmont, in which our activities will tally with similar countries worldwide that share our goals. It's not simply about us fighting corruption, it's about achieving the goals to which we set for ourselves. And it has been attitudinal as a nation for us to, most times, be careless about international organizations, conventions, and treaties which we sign. What is happening in Egmont is typical of ourselves as a nation. It's the same thing of our membership of FIFA and other international groups. So I think what this parliament can do is to rescue the situation. December is the deadline which we either meet it up or we are expelled from it. And I think this should be, in every sense, if we are desirous of achieving results in our anti-corruption fight, then we must not afford to be expelled from an institution that does and have the mechanism in every possible way to support our own local national laws and agencies. And I thank you very much for this.
Senator Foster Ogala.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished senators. I am Senator Foster Ogola. I represent Bayelsa West. This issue is very crucial to survival of Nigeria as a nation. The economy will be in shambles because the expulsion of Nigeria from these very foremost anti-corruption unit of the world backed by the UN, United Nations, will spell doom for businesses in Nigeria. And that's why we need credible institutions to fight corruption. The Senate, in passing this resolution, will be contributing a needed quota of actions towards fighting corruption in Nigeria. No country exchanging criminal, financial transactions information, illegal acquisition of wealth with Nigerian agency, the NFIU, implies that every other thing we are doing to resuscitate this economy that is in recession will spell doom for us. And therefore, I will urge all senators to support this motion. Not only that, to ensure that when the appropriate committee sponsors the needed bill, which should be private, should be accorded easy passage, because we have a deadline to work against. This one is moving against the storm of the world against Nigeria. And therefore, I crave the indulgence of all distinguished senators to support this motion and also support the consequential bill that will come up on this, so that we will be seen as a Senate, as a National Assembly, as a national and credible legislature that is doing our own bit in the fight to sustain the economy and credibility of Nigeria. I so support.
Okay, any comments? Yes, Senator Dino.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, I'll be looking at this postulation from a very different perspective. Mr. President, the negative concomitant effect of disobeying international procedures that Nigeria is not only a signatory, but now we are living in a global world. This will definitely affect the indices, the criteria, and the yardstick for rating Nigeria as a nation by Transparency International and other global bodies. This also, in resultant effect, will affect funding of other international agencies of government in Nigeria, because Nigeria must show that we are responsible to treaties, to bilateral relationships, and domestication of laws that we have adopted. Mr. President, separating the NFIU from EFCC will show that we are sincere in the fight against corruption. Today, we all know that there is serious interference with the activities and operations of the NFIU. So I want to ask this Senate, this last bus stop of the Nigerian masses, to, as a matter of urgent national importance, immediately start procedures of enacting this law. Mr. President, we all attend international programs and meetings abroad. Your next visit will be questions from international reporters and news agencies asking you why is Nigeria not respecting what we have agreed to do. This will have an international reputational damage on the integrity of this country and on our rating at all levels. Mr. President, we must, as a Senate, agree that this should be done and should be done expeditiously. We have no other country to call our own, but we must, as a matter, so that the disease that is bedeviling EFCC is a communicable one. It will not affect
the NFIU as a department of EFCC. Thank you.
So you go straight to the prayers. Prayer 1. Pass a law creating a substantive autonomous Nigerian financial intelligence in NFIU and make the unit legally and operationally autonomous with powers of the employment, reward, training, promotion, and discipline of its workforce independently. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Empower the NFIU to, in line with international best practices, exchange and relate with all the countries on issues affecting its mandate at the bilateral and multilateral levels. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. There's a prayer 3. Urge the 3 line ministries of Justice, Finance, and Interior to do all within their powers to ensure that Nigeria's suspension is immediately reversed and ensure that all conditions specified by the Egmont Group are met to readmit and improve Nigeria's standing within the group while increasing their levels of cooperation and coordination to ensure that Nigeria achieves membership of the FATF. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. There is it. And prayer 4. Urge the executive branch to include in any supplementary budget estimate that may be presented to National Assembly before the end of the year a separate budget for NFIU in view of the need to lift the suspension of Nigeria as soon as possible. Those in favor of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional prayer? Yes, Senator Mao Wabana.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Mao Arupo, who I'm representing the third people of Abia North, for Abia State. Mr. President, in support of this all-important motion, I want to say that we should resolve that the Committee on Anti-Corruption should come up with a bill within 4 weeks. They should come up with a bill that will necessitate the creation of a substantive and autonomous NFIU.
That's prayer 1. Any seconder? Yes, Senator Doku.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Atai Aidoko Ali. I represent Kogi East. I rise to second the proposed amendment by Senator Mao Obabua that the additional prayer that the committee should in 4 weeks submit a draft bill to this Senate for consideration. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of additional prayer, urging that the Anti-Corruption Committee should within 4 weeks submit a draft bill for the setup of an independent NFIU. Those in favor of this say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional prayer? No, let me commend the distinguished senator for the well-articulated motion. Clearly, this suspension is a setback in our fight against corruption, and as such, we must move swiftly because we cannot afford to be cut off from the Egmont Group. We must move swiftly and ensure that this suspension is lifted. And one of the things that we need to do is to ensure that we pass this bill as soon as possible, where we give independence to NFIU, and any of the other activities that must have led to this must be stopped. And the Committee on Anti-Corruption will carry out the oversight to ensure this. The sooner we get suspension lifted, the better for our image and the fight against corruption. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Theodore Oji on the anti-malaria drugs banned by the European Union, still being sold and consumed in Nigeria, need for the Senate to investigate. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Theodore Oji to move his motion.
Senator Theodore Oji, Abia Central.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Senate President, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Oji Ochendo. I represent Abia Central. My motion is on anti-malaria drugs banned by the European Union, still being sold and consumed in Nigeria, the need for the Senate to investigate. The Senate notes that recently the European Union banned the sale and consumption of 42 anti-malaria drugs in all countries within the European Union. The Senate notes that the 42 anti-malaria drugs are Alaxin, Amodiaquin, Arinet, Atrumax, Atimax, Antimedin, Antisunet, Atixin, Camoquin, Coptixin, Daraprim, Fascinil, Flavoquin, Gunet, Hanfan, Malaretin, Paudrin, Pasmotrin, and the others. Senate observes that according to the report, EU countries must not stock any drugs that contain any of these substances: plasmotrin, attiquin, cornet, acro, aficon, and dilaquin. Senate further notes that the reason given for the ban of the 42 drugs is that they are considered very dangerous and linked to the cause of kidney failure. Alarmed that all the 42 anti-malaria drugs banned in Europe are still being stockpiled and sold and consumed in Nigeria. Concerned also are the enormity of the danger the continued sale and consumption of these drugs can pose to the health of Nigerians. Senate observes that the situation is already trending and generating panic and concern among medical practitioners and members of the public. Senate observes that the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control and Standard Organization of Nigeria, SON, which have hitherto waged ceaseless war on the influx of fake and substandard items into Nigeria, have not adequately addressed this issue. Senate therefore observed that most of the drugs on the banned list of drugs are very popular and common in Nigeria and are easily obtained across the counter with or without proper requisite prescription. Senate notes that the President of the Nigerian Medical Association, Professor Mike Ogrima, has already confirmed the delisting of these drugs by the European countries. Accordingly, Senate resolves to direct the Senate Committee on Health to urgently investigate the veracity and authenticity of this matter and report back to the Senate for further action, because the only difference between us and members of the European Union is our color. Our organs are the same. On that note, Your Excellency, I wish my colleagues to kindly support this motion. Thank you.
Yes, and Baraj Jibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Baraj Jibrin. I represent Kano North in this August Senate. Mr. President, I stand to second this motion and to commend the mover of this motion for a job well done. Having said so, let me say the fact that these drugs, 42 of them, are still being used in Nigeria, is a sad commentary on the way that our public institutions that are existing to take care of our well-being, particularly our health, are being run. In other climes, these drugs have been banned because of their effect, because of the fact that they create kidney failures. No wonder that in this country we have rampant cases of kidney failures everywhere, in every state and every town in this country. But yet our experts, agencies that we have, that are meant to study on a continuous basis the effects of drugs such as these on the teeming population of this country are not doing their work properly. If not, they will have discovered that these drugs are not really appropriate, they are not good for us because their effect on our lives. I think it's quite important that agencies like NAFDAC should really be called upon, and our experts in the health sector should also be called upon to quickly intervene to make sure that the havoc being created by these drugs will no longer allow that to continue by immediately making proper finding and coming up with a proper report that will clearly tell us the situation. Mr. President, I so submit.
Senator Larry Tejoshua, Ogun Central.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Senate President, distinguished colleagues. I am Olarewaju Tejoshua, representing Ogun Central, Ogun State, also Chairman, Senate Committee on Health. I thank His Excellency Senator Oji for this very important motion, and also to notify these chambers that immediately this information got to us, we summoned the NAFDAC acting DG, and as a medical practitioner, I know that most of these drugs are not even effective to solve malaria in Nigeria, because malaria is a very prevalent disease in Nigeria. We don't have malaria in Europe. Most of these drugs now are used as combination therapy in Nigeria, in Africa. There's a conflict between the European Union and the World Health Organization. WHO approves combination drugs for use in Africa. WHO partners with African countries to do research on our problems. European Union, they do their research in Europe because they don't even have malaria in the first place. If any Nigerian has malaria in Europe, they quarantine the person because they are not used to treating frequent malaria issues. For example, if you go to the website of the European Union, you will see that some of the drugs are now approved for combination therapy. The ones that are listed as in the social media, this was listed in social media. So I don't want to react on social media presentation until I get confirmation from the relevant bodies. But the most important message we should get out of this particular motion is that we need to strengthen our Nigerian Medical Research Institute, because we have the Nigerians here to actually research on, to know what works for us in Nigeria. The Medical Research Institute, every year, they are not funded. So there's no way they can do all this research. And we keep on relying, we have surrendered to the European Union, we have surrendered to WHO to tell us what will work for our people. So now, I'm bringing it up as my contribution that we should emphasize the funding of our own Medical Research Institute so that we can know exactly what works for our people, not relying on European Union and WHO. I so submit. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator James Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. James Manager, CEO Delta South. Mr. President, having listened to the Chairman of the Committee on Health, who himself is an accomplished medical practitioner, I have very little to say. However, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, we are human beings, and human beings are human beings with exactly the same features all over the world. But the environments that we live in are different. Particularly Europe, the environment there is definitely different from the environment we live in here. And malaria is an African disease, particularly in Nigeria, where malaria-infested environment. And therefore, there are certain things that will be banned there that may not exactly be the same situation here in this country. But however, the mover of this motion the mover of this motion, I want to sincerely thank you, because every day, in and day out, people are dying silently in hospitals because of wrong prescription of drugs. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, we need to, as the chairman senior committee on Earth has pointed out, we need to fund this very important research institute, medical institute, because I'm sure that will come up as a prayer in this particular motion. If we don't fund them, we are indirectly poisoning everybody, and that is certainly not good enough for this great country. We sometimes pay less attention to things that are very important to the well-being of all Nigerians. So, Mr. President, I'm happy that the only prayer here so far is talking about investigation. So let the proper investigation be done, and let us know exactly the drugs that are not are banned there, which are not useful here, and the ones that must be combined with another drugs before it will give effect. All these things are very important, so that this particular investigation will give us the details, so that we will appropriately guide Nigerians as to what to do when they have malaria. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Minority Whip.
Minority Whip is not in your, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues.
We have the protection, don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues. I remain Senator Boacha. I represent Taraba South. Mr. President, I am thrilled by particularly the prayer of this motion, which is calling for investigation. I know before this motion how many lives must have been lost. And I want to say, Mr. President, that the European countries are taking advantage of Nigeria's population. Why do I say this? Could it be European countries or even our businessmen? The landmass, the population of close to about 200 million, makes it easier for some of these drugs to get to rural areas that are unaware of the dangers associated with its consumption. I am sure in places, even if NAFTA Step Up campaign, before this campaign get to places like Zuru, like Sabama and maybe Far North and all that, or Bomambi and all that, it becomes a problem. But for those who are in metropolitan areas, Abuja, Lagos, and it's easier to avoid this danger. And I think it's very, very important, and we take this motion very seriously, because only God knows how many people have perished. A while ago, the minority leader was sharing with me somebody who took this halfan and then started jumping and hit himself to a wall. Of course, the explanation sometimes could be, this is the imitation. It's always like that, just to allow the entire drug flood the market. So I think if we treat this motion with the desired attention and seriousness, we will save lives, Mr. President. So I add my voice that we take this investigation seriously. Both Standard Organization of Nigeria, NAFDAC, and all associated agencies should put heads together and ensure that this matter is treated with the desired attention. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, I think I've taken. Can we go to the prayer? Direct the Senate Committee on Health to urgently investigate this matter and report back to the Senate for further action to save the lives of Nigerians. Those in favor of prayer say aye. Those against say nay. There is an additional prayer. Any additional prayer? Distinguished colleagues, let me commend the mover of this motion. And as we all know, this is really a primary responsibility here as senators to protect the lives of our citizens. And as such, we must look into issues like this. I hope the Committee on Health would get to the bottom of it and make necessary recommendations so that we can put an end to this kind of events that are totally avoidable and should not happen in our society. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very respected colleagues, The third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Whistleblowers Protection Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Thursday, 8 June 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator David Umaru, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator David Umaru.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is David Umaru. Distinguished colleagues, I rise to move the motion that this Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Whistleblowers Protection Bill 2017 SB 158. I so move.
Senator Geshen-Bassi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Geshen-Bassi, Cross River South, Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2017 SB 158. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2017 SB 158. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator David, you will present your report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Most distinguished colleagues, this is a report of the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on a bill for an act to protect persons making disclosure for the public interest and others from reprisal, to provide for the matters disclosed to be properly investigated and dealt with, and for other purposes related therewith. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you will recall that the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2016 SB 158 was sponsored by distinguished Senator Biodun Christine Olujimi of Ekiti South Senatorial District. The bill was read for the first time on Tuesday, 15th March 2016. The Senate, during its plenary sitting of Wednesday, 19th October 2016, deliberated on the general principles of the bill. After extensive deliberations, it was read for the second time and referred to the Senate Committee on Judiciary for further legislative action via order of referral dated 20th October 2016, and to report back with the recommendation. Mr. President, I will go straight to the objective of the bill, which is on the second page. The objectives of the bill are as follows. First, it seeks to encourage and facilitate disclosure of improper conduct by persons, public officers, and corporate bodies, both private and public. Secondly, it ensures that matters disclosed are properly investigated and handled appropriately in accordance with the law. Thirdly, the bill seeks to ensure adequate protection for the whistleblowers from reprisals, victimization, job losses, isolation, humiliation, which are some of the consequences of whistleblowing. Fourthly, this legal framework also contemplates financial reward for any disclosure that leads to discovery and recovery of funds, properties, and so on, so as to serve as incentive for potential whistleblowers. On the whole, this mechanism is a recognized concept which has been adopted by many countries in the world, and it has helped in the fight against corruption. We go to the page 7 of the report, legislative summary. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this legislative summary highlights further inputs made on the provisions of the bill. The proposed changes are all-encompassing and will address all related issues bordering on whistleblowing that were not contemplated in the bill. It is noteworthy to stress also that the committee, in the course of deliberations, consulted widely and carried out in-depth legislative research and analysis to bring it up to date in order for the legislation to be able to stand the test of time. As a result, some clauses of the draft bill were redrafted and new clauses were also introduced in order to address a plethora of issues bordering on whistleblowing. This will no doubt provide the basis for our observations and findings. We commend the proposed changes to this distinguished Senate for approval. Long title. The long title of the bill was redrafted by the committee to capture the intent and purport of the bill in line with the proposed amendment. Clause 5 deals with the procedure for making a disclosure. The committee introduced this new clause because it is necessary to maintain the confidentiality of information given in order to prevent any alteration from the statement made by a witness, especially if the witness is an illiterate, blind, or suffering from any form of disability. Similarly, new clauses 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, among others, were also introduced by the committee as set out in the attached table. This was to further enrich the bill. Clause 11 deals with submission of report of investigation to the Attorney General. This is also a new clause introduced by the committee to ensure the validity of any information disclosed in order to avoid trivial, frivolous, and vexatious information. Clause 13 deals with power to enter premises. The committee amended this clause by substituting for the words the Chief Commissioner with the word investigator. Similarly, this substitution applies mutatis mutandis in the bill where it appears to confer investigative powers, which relates to the crime on the Chief Commissioner. Because the Chief Commissioner's function at the Public Complaints Commission is restricted to administrative investigation in order to control administrative excesses, non-adherence to procedure. Clause 15 deals with procedure for executing warrants. The committee amended this clause by providing new subsection 4 as set out in the table. The subsection provides for liability by persons executing such warrant for using excessive force, which occasions destruction of properties. Clause 18 deals with the protection of whistleblower. It is our reasoning that this clause is the underlying essence of this bill, as it seeks to protect the whistleblower from any form of victimization. Hence, the clause was amended as set out in the table to holistically address the subject matter. Clause 34 deals with establishment of public interest disclosure reward fund. It is our considered opinion that for whistleblowing to be effective, there should be a fund set aside to serve as incentive to potential whistleblowers. This is because in view of the successes the government has recorded in its anti-corruption crusade when it introduced a policy of reward to whistleblowers. Clause 38 deals with reward on recovery of money or property. This is a new clause introduced by the committee whereby the percentage of what is to be given to a whistleblower is stipulated. The percentage of reward proposed by the committee is in line with the government's current policy on whistleblowing. Clause 45 deals with penalty. This clause was introduced by the committee to guide against and deter false disclosure by providing stringent punishment of imprisonment of not less than 5 years or to a fine of 10 million naira. Observations and findings. From the preponderance of views canvassed by stakeholders and the members of the general public and our subsequent analysis of the provisions in our markup sessions on the bill, we hereby make the following observations and findings. 1. That the stakeholders unanimously supported the passage of the bill as it will give more impetus to the fight against corruption and reinforce government's policy on whistleblowing. 2. that in order to have a comprehensive legislation to sufficiently address related issues on whistleblowing in line with global best practices, the committee made further consultations to enrich the bill. 3, that the passage of the bill will guarantee adequate protection for potential whistleblowers against reprisals, victimizations, job losses, etc. 4, that the provision that contemplates monetary reward for whistleblowers whose information lead to discovery of looted funds, proceeds of crime, or improper conduct is a laudable and innovative provision of this bill. The provision will further strengthen the policy currently being adopted by the federal government, which is already yielding positive results. And 5, that this proposed legislation has been enforced in other climes, and it has helped in the fight against corruption and improper conduct by public officers, individuals, and corporations. Recommendation. Flowing from the presentations made during the public hearing and the foregoing observations and findings, the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, to which the Whistleblower Protection Bill 2017 was referred, having favorably considered same, recommends as follows: that the Senate do consider and pass the Whistleblowers Protection Bill 2017 as amended. I so move. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in conclusion, we wish to use this opportunity to thank the President of the Senate and our distinguished colleagues for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. And I respectfully commend the passage of this bill to this distinguished Senate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any questions? Therefore, we're going to committee of the whole and take it close by close basis. Leader of Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second that the Senate resolve into a Committee of the Whole to consider the class-by-class consideration of the bill.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the resolve in Committee of the Whole consider the bill close by close, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, there are 47 clauses here. There's a number of clauses that have been deleted, so there's a lot of renumbering. So we just have to go through carefully so that we don't get lost in the process. Okay. Clause 1. On page 1. Those in favor that clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 2. Chairman, clause 2C. Can you enlighten us why they've used that word, a miscarriage of justice? Does it have to be 2C? Yeah. Is that word very subjective? Yeah.
I think the effect is to talk about where there is a possibility of miscarriage of justice being carried out, or is likely to be, to be carried in respect of a person, or is actually happening, that such an incident can be reported. I don't understand the question, sir.
No, expatiate on miscarriage of justice. A person who may disclose the disclosure of information in the public interest, where the person has reasonable cause to believe that the information tends to seek a miscarriage of justice as recorded.
Yeah, for example, if there is a situation where
misinformation,
injustice is being carried out by a public officer, and either by a policeman or some other law enforcement agency.
Yes, Senator Booker.
Mr. Chairman, sir, my humble opinion is that in creating a law, let us not depend on what he assumes, Mr. Chairman, is assuming to explain to us. Will it do us any injury if this particular clause is deleted? And that is my suggestion, because the intent is not very clear as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I really don't see whether that clause C really what value is adding in that section.
Yes, assuming there is a suspicion that something is about to happen. Huge sum of money is about to be kept somewhere. And then somebody could blow the whistle that's come home. So much money is about to be kept somewhere. I think that is the intent of that particular person. Be proactive.
Being proactive. That's not the way to do it.
That's not what he says.
Okay. That's not what
we can.
What page are you?
Page 2.
Not long ago, Excellency Abdullah Adamu, a good example of this is what happened with our colleague, Senator Boji. It's a good example of miscarriage of justice. What happened in Kaduna with the former vice president? What happened to our colleague, Senator Damjuma Boji, when his house was invaded, he was searched. In the end, they said there was nothing, and just brought back whatever they thought what they took. No apologies, no nothing with the integrity that was put to question. The same thing happened recently with the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Right? His house was searched, and days after the search, they said they found nothing, and that's all that there was. So in a situation like this, there's miscarriage of justice.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, this is not contained in the original bill, so it was included by the committee. However, I don't see how anybody can blow a whistle on something that is going to happen. It means the person would have prior knowledge of what is going to happen. And a bill should not anticipate such an action. I believe nothing will be lost if we take out this C and continue with the bill as is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. I think this situation contemplates a situation where there is a pending case in court, and there is an information to somebody that there is likelihood that a judgment is going to be delivered in favor of a particular person based on certain fraudulent deals between the judge and somebody. So you can blow the whistle and say, this is what has happened. Maybe money has changed hands. And you said judgment is about to be delivered in favor of this person on such and such a grounds. In such a case, it is right that a whistle be blown so that the judgment is arrested or something is done. I think it has to do mostly with court cases.
Yes. Chairman.
What I was trying to add, actually, Mr. President, is that this actually contemplates a situation whereby also, for example, during investigation, maybe the investigator is involved in something, that the law does not allow him to do, and there is someone who is watching that occur. That fellow could equally, this is a situation of miscarrying justice, and that fellow who is actually watching can complain, can send, can make a disclosure to the appropriate authority with regards to what is going on.
Mr. Chairman, my colleagues, as much as possible, I don't think we should do anticipatory law, because this is like looking into the mind of something. There are times you go to court and the judge will shout on you, shout on you, shout on you, but eventually when the judgment comes, it turns out to be in your favor, because in reality the judge has done proper reconsideration of the matter. But meanwhile, you now anticipate that because he's shouting on you, you are likely to lose. So you go and report that the other person has reached the judge. So this can be a law. I'm sorry that we are just trying to create room for confusion in the country. So my suggestion would be anything that is anticipatory, from 2C, D, E, even F, all of them, we should take them out. The two things there should be A and B. Because here, once we say, it's likely to occur, it means that any human being can look at your face and say that it looks like as if you're about to do mischief. And then you go to a D, and it says that there is likely to be waste, misappropriation. Likely to be. So there's likely to be waste. There's likely to be misappropriation. Therefore, I blow the whistle. This will, don't forget that blowing whistle costs money, because the person has to move in and do investigation. They will continue to waste money on anticipatory blowing. And then at the end of the day, we may not really get to the real thing. Let it be that, yes, indeed, something like this has occurred and is not known, and the person blows the whistle on it. I think that was the contemplation of the law, not something that you suspect. If the law is based on suspicion, police is already vested with the power that if they suspect that you are a criminal, they can come after you. If they suspect that vehicle accident, they can come. Not the whistleblower. A whistleblower must be authentic. A whistleblower must be authentic, and the whistleblower must have punishment where the whistleblower is found to have wasted public money, and then there must be sanctions for a whistleblower. I know, but a whistleblower, how do you sanction a whistleblower who is anticipatory? Who says, I thought this was going to happen, and the law protects the thinking. I think this should be deleted, sir.
Yes, Deputy Leader.
I have carefully looked at this provision. I'm sorry it may be an omission on my side, but I do know that in law there is a sharp difference between likelihood and probability. Very sharp difference. A thing is said to be likely where it happening will not surprise any reasonable person that that thing has happened. And it's said to be probable where nobody will be surprised that it happened, and it will equally not be surprised that it did not happen. This is the marked difference. So if we say likely, we have put a stronger requirement that will make it available for abuse. But when we soften it by using the word probability, that the probability that what is being done is illegal, then that becomes easier. So I really want to align myself with the argument of distinguished Senator Akpabio that we have to be a little bit careful in the use of this likelihood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Parliament, the responsibility of the Parliament is to make laws that are not ambiguous, laws that is straightforward and has one interpretation. Now, from what is going on, we have senators here who have various interpretations to this section. I think that in making laws, we should be very clear, very straight. If this provision is not straightforward, if it's not clear, we remove it so that we don't cause further confusion. If we cannot come up with one straight interpretation, it means the court will have more problems. Lawyers will come with different confusion. So any law that is not coming out of this place that is clear, we should just remove it from the beginning.
Good point by Senator Ajoko there. I think there are two issues here. Should we just limit ourselves to what has occurred or has taken place and remove the likely that are about to take place? So which means, for example, in C, it's talking about has occurred, is occurring, or is likely to occur. If we go to D, in a public institution there has been, there is, or there's likely to be. And if you go to E, the environment has been degraded, is being degraded or likely, and then the property is likely to be endangered. I think so. I think all those likely, so I can take them, we can go back and take it clause by clause, and then we'll make them, okay, all right. Yes, Senator Binta.
So if we look at the subhead, disclosure and procedures for disclosure of improper conduct and related actions. And if you see 2.1, a person may make a disclosure of information in the public interest where that person has a reasonable cause to believe that the information tends to show. And I was asking, if we change the nomenclature, is it going to have an effect on the other clauses? Because if you looked at A, an economic or financial crime has been committed, is about to be committed, and it flows to even F. So if we are going to touch it, it has to start from A, B, C.
There's 2.1a. An economic and financial crime has been committed, is about to committed, or likely to be committed. Amendment, yeah. Okay, so Minority Leader, are you moving for that?
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I move that in that clause A, that we should end it with an economic and financial crime has been committed. Simplicity. How can you say about to be committed? About to be committed. How does the person know it's going to be committed? The intention of the whistleblowing bill is to disclose acts that have already occurred. And when you blow, and then they go there to check, and it has occurred, you get your benefit. If you blow and they check it and it is not true, then you get your punishment. So we should end it by saying an economic and financial crime has been committed. Simplicity. But about to how? About to is almost like likely, because it's the same likelihood. You are saying that an economic crime, judging from the dressing of the Senate President, is about to be committed. And you say not what I said. We stop it in simplicity.
Let me get a contribution for other people. Okay, where we are now is that there are two thoughts. One, either we leave about to be committed as well because we believe it's clearly different from likely to be committed, or both likely to be committed and about to be committed should both be deleted. So yeah, my deputy leader.
When a thing is said to be about to be committed, it means there are reasonable grounds for believing that it is going to be committed. So that is okay. But when you say likely, it becomes a problem. So as far as I'm concerned, about to be committed, anybody who believes that something of financial crime is about to be committed must have reasonable ground for suspecting that.
Amendment that 21A should read an economic and financial crime has been committed and is about to be committed. Deputy Leader, seconder to that motion. Senator Mao.
Mr. President, distinguished, I second the amendment made by the Deputy Leader that 2A should read an economic and financial crime has been committed or is about to be committed.
No, but it's about to be committed.
Or it's about
Those in favor of 21A as amended stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 21B, the violation or contravention of any law relating to terrorism, kidnapping, illegal possession of firearms and electoral materials or any existing law. Those in favor of 21B stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 21C, amendment, yes, Senator Mao.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, I amend that 21C should read a miscarriage of justice has occurred or is occurring. Full stop. A miscarriage of justice has occurred or about to occur, or both either occurring or is about to occur. But it's not likely, no likely. Likely should be deleted. Likely should be deleted.
Distinguished, let me put the question. No, what's no, sir? I want to put the question. You can say no or yes when I put the question. What legal position?
When we objected to likely in the first place, it was because there was no parameter to arrive at likelihood. But in the second place, there is parameter to arrive at likelihood. For example, if you say that I am a senator and you are asking Senator Akpabio to determine my matter, it is only reasonable that people say there is going to be likelihood or bias. So where there is parameter, the use of the word likely is allowed in law. But where there is nothing to get that parameter, then you cannot use likelihood. And like I have earlier defined, once there is parameter, it means it provides a reasonable passing ground to either be surprised that it did not happen or to be surprised that it happened.
Issue goes beyond that. I think even the definition of miscarriage of justice have many definitions. So let me just put the question on that subsection itself. Those in favor of clause 21C stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Nays have it. Clause 21D, amendment. Then amendment 21D. Do we stop as a public institution, in a public institution there has been? So we take out there is or there's likely to. Okay, so who's recommending the amendment? Senator Jimmy.
Thank you. We just let that section read. In a public institution, there has been misappropriation or mismanagement of public resources. I so move. There has been.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I am First Ogola, I rise to second the amendment as proposed by this, Senator Olujimi, that in a public institution there have been misappropriation or mismanagement of public resources.
Bill say aye. Those against say nay. There is a clause 21E. Okay, those in favor that 21E as amended, the environment has been degraded to stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. There is a and 21F. Same thing. Those the property, health, or safety of any individual or community or the public is endangered. Those in favor of 21F as amended stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 22. Those in favor that clause 22 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 23. Senator Abe.
Yes, sir. I think if we are going to allow whistleblowers to get financial gain, then we cannot come here and indict those that do it aiming to get financial gain. If we are going to allow, there is a 10% allowance for whistleblowers to get if the thing works. We cannot come here now and say if the disclosure is made in good faith and not out of malice or aimed at getting personal gain, when we have already allowed personal gain. So that can be a problem. 10% is assured for whistleblowers now. Is it 1%? That's very small. But sir, what I'm saying is that the disclosure is made in good faith and not out of malice. And we end it there.
Amendment. Yeah, saying that the 2.3a should stop at malice. The disclosure is made in good faith and not out of malice. Full stop.
Mr. Chairman, sir, my opinion is that whether it is done out of malice, because or not, there is reward if the blowing is correct. And the other one, there is penalty if the blowing is wrong. I am aware that even children are blowing whistle now on their parents, and then political enemies are also blowing whistle. So you cannot say any of them is done in good faith. Whether it is malice or good faith, what happens is that it is a pecuniary benefit that attracts whistle blowing. So I think that we should just delete this section. It's not necessary. We will blow it out of good faith, or you blow it out of malice, or blowing is blowing. Just blow the whistle. Blow the whistle, whether it is out of malice, out of love, out of good faith, blow the whistle. So I think this should be deleted. This should be deleted, not necessary. So I propose that we delete it, sir.
Does the bill have any section that protects a person that does that?
The person that does what? I don't think we should delete 2A because you see it's intended to protect, to serve as a warning that you cannot blow for financial gain. You know, there are other provisions in the bill that actually takes care of those who have run foul of the law.
So let's go back to Magnus has an amendment. Do we have a seconder to that amendment? Then we can put the question. Huh?
To withdraw my amendment, and I second the amendment moved by the minority leader.
Okay, all right. All right, let's put the question there. 23A. Those in favor that 23A stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Nays have it. 23B. Yes, my deputy leader.
we should add to the best of its knowledge, true and correct, instead of saying to the best of knowledge true. Because something can be true and it may not be correct. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It must not only be true, but it must be correct.
Those in favor that 23B stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. There is a 23C. 23C, yeah.
Small typographical error here, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. The second line, third line, actually, prohibited under Official Secrecy Act. Supposed to be Official Secrets Act.
Okay. 2-5, yeah. Those in favor of 2-5 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. That's it. Clause 3. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman and my distinguished colleagues, I want to know, outside national security, what about state security?
The same thing.
No, with national security, it's different from state security. Because where a governor has responsibility to protect his 5 million people, and you blow a whistle that has to hamper the state security, this is different from national security. Sorry, I'm saying this. No, it doesn't cover.
Nigeria as a state.
Sorry, I know what I'm talking about. As of today, if a governor has a need to make financial availability to an agency like SSS and others,
State security.
you understand? Where normally these things are not funded. They are talking about national security. I'm talking about practical situation. If a state governor has to make financial input to maybe the Navy, to SSS, to this, to that, many of them will not accept financial transfers because it's not the responsibility of states. But we know as states that we buy all the vehicles of police. We fund all the operations and everything they do. So, and the federal government hardly contributes. So if you love your people and you say you're a governor and you want to protect their lives and their properties, you must take over the responsibility of the federal government to secure your people. So where such monies are withdrawn for such purpose and somebody goes to make a disclosure to make a gain and they come in and you are not in tune with the federal government and they jump up, it's not national security, that is state security.
Clause 3. We have already passed it anyway. Clause 3. Clause 3. Those in favor of clause 3 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. There is a clause 4. Clause 4 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. There is a clause 5. Forward. Secretary, I take note. Clause 5. All right, thank you, Secretary. I take note of that as well. Clause 5. Percentage of clause 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In A of clause 5, 2A, I think we should include passport photograph or picture to all the forms of identification, a full name, address, and affidavit. passport, photograph, and affidavit.
No, already have, there's already a clause that addresses if people make false. So you should not make it in such a way that administratively it's almost impossible for you to run away from the next step. All right. Yeah. Yes, Deputy Leader.
51A has already said the disclosure may be made in writing or orally. So if you are making oral disclosure, how do you put your passport? So it's not necessary.
Yes, and Binta.
I think we should just maintain that in writing or orally, because with what we captured was that if one is an illiterate and will not write, somebody has to write on his behalf. So I think it's okay, we should maintain it.
Mr. President.
Yes, Chairman.
I think Clause 6 has taken care of that. Where it is made orally, it will have to be committed to writing under Clause 6. And also this issue of photograph, I don't think it's necessary because there is a provision that makes for personal declaration, which will be an undertaking by the person making the disclosure that what he's saying is actually factual. Sorry, sir.
In this particular clause 5A, let's include passport photograph. Simple. That's my amendment.
What? In 5(2)A, we have the full name, address, passport photograph, signature, and occupation of who make. What does the what do you have against that? Okay. So can I have a seconder to that then? Yes, minority leader. So, distinguished colleagues, those in favor of 5(2)A as amended, that is the full name, address, passport photograph, signature, and occupation of the person who make a disclosure. Those in favor of 5(2)A as amended, stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 5(2)B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. Those in favor that that stands part of the bill, say aye. Senator Kofi, you have something?
Sir, G, if you look at it now, if a person makes a disclosure, should not be is, but or an employee making a disclosure about an employer or a fellow employee, or whether only the person remains in the same employment. So that should not be is or. Look at it, should be or. The first line. If the person makes a disclosure or an employee making a disclosure, have you seen it? First line, G. It should be O, not E. Eh? G. No, it's, no, is the is.
Okay, let me put the question, please. Those in favor 5(2)B, C, D, E, F, G, H stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 6. Those in favor that clause 6 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 7. Those in favor that clause 7 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 8. Clause 8. Those in favor that clause 8 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 9. Clause 9. Yes, Senator Tasi. I can't hear you. Thank you.
I'm sorry to take you back, but it's for on good. We talked about clause 2 and negative 3A. We removed it, we negatived it. And if you come to clause 5H, we also talk about good faith, not malice, and not out of financial gain. I think we have to knock off that last sentence there. If you look at H, 5H, if you look at 2H, 2A, or clause 2, 3A, we negatived it. You know, and then you come back to this one, H, 5H. You say the same thing we negatived earlier on. Good faith and not out of malice or financial gain. So just like we did to 3, we have to negative these two. So to be in tandem with what we have done, to follow the same trends. I so submit.
So you're suggesting that should stop as substantially true, is it? Okay. Anybody seconding that amendment? Yes, Senator Idogo. So I put the question. Those in favor that clauses 5H as amended stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. We're at clause 9. Those in favor that clause 9 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 10, 11, 12, and 13 be deleted. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 10. Clause 10 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 11. Clause 11, those in favor that clause 11 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 12. Those in favor that clause 12 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 13. Those in favor that clause 13 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 14. Those in favor that clause 14 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 15. Those in favor that clause 15 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 16. Those in favor 15 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 17 be deleted say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the new clause 17.
I think new clause 17, the word if should equally be deleted. The sentence should start from upon receipt. I think there was a mistake there.
Secretary, take note. Clause 17. Clause 17(1). Let's do it that way. Those in favor that clause 17(1) stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 17(2). Those in favor that 17(2) stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 17(3). A point of order, Leader.
Mr. Chairman, very distinguished colleagues, I move that we suspend our order 13 to enable the Senate to sit beyond 2 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we suspend order 13 to enable us to sit beyond 2 o'clock. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion put forward, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Yeah, we're at 17(3). Those in favor that 17(3) stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that 17(4) stands deleted, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 18. Yes, Leader.
I have issue with 2A sub 5 on page 16. And I will read. The person who makes a disclosure shall be considered as having been subjected to victimization if, because of making the disclosure, the person being an employee is transferred against the person. I think transfers are administrative arrangements that organizations don't have to accept, to do when someone accepts to be transferred. So I think we should believe that.
Yes, Senator Poker.
I think I support the amendment. Because if you are going to transfer me, if I like the transfer, then it's not necessary. So we should delete it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just to give us another opportunity to have a rethink, transfers that are made ordinarily in the course of the employment without anything looks normal. It's okay. But for a transfer that is done maliciously, because the person who is being transferred is known to have disclose certain information, I think will not be looked at as transfer that is made in the course of the employment.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of 18.1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of 18.2a1 to Roman figure 1 to 4 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of 18.2a Roman figure 5 as amended stands as deleted stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that 18.2a Roman figures 6 to 9 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that 18.2b stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And those in favor that 18.3 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 19. Those in favor that clause 19 stands deleted say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. New clause 19. Those in favor that clause 19 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 20. Those in favor that clause 20 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 21 and 22.
Sorry, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. I think I would like to take us a little bit back to clause 20:24. The Commission may, where it considered is just in the circumstance of the case, make an order for payment of reward from the fund established under Section 34. I think there is likely to be some confusion there because a court may make a reward not based on the provisions of the bill as contained in Section 38, Clause 38. So I think it will be advisable to have a little amendment here to make the court make its award in line with the provisions that is contained in Section 38. So in that wise, I'm suggesting that we add after the word reward, we add in accordance with the principles set out in Section 38. I don't know if I can make it clearer. No, 38. 38 deals with the percentages that are allowed, based on the amount of recovery. 38 talks about 1.5%, 1%. Otherwise, you will have the court make an award which is not in line with this provision.
Guide us. That was your amendment. It's your document now. So guide us what.
That's why I'm suggesting that after the word on that same subsection, subclause 4, that it should read, the Commission may, where it considers it just in the circumstances of the case, make an order for payment of reward. Now, after that word reward, we add in accordance with the principles set out in Section 38. And then it will continue from there, from the fund established under Section 34.
Any seconder to that? Senator Idopo. Distinguished colleagues, 24 amendment reads, the Commission may, where it considers it just in the circumstances of the case, make an order for payment of reward in accordance with the principles set out in Section 8, from the fund established under Section 34. No, the fund is established 34-38. The fund is. Yes, from the fund established under 34, yeah. So those in favor of clause 24 as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we go back to 21 and 22. Those in favor that 21 and 22 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 23. Take us back to 20.
If you give somebody power to take certain actions, and you do not go ahead to give him additional power to punish for not obeying the instruction he has given, it's like giving him with the right hand and taking it by the left hand. You have given National Human Rights Commission power to investigate, to order reinstatement, to order reversal, to order transfer where it is made not in good faith. Now, assuming but without considering that it makes this order to a ministry and then the ministry refuses to implement, what happens? Why? Then in the first place you always say, so I think we should go further than this, sir. If we must carry the spirit of the law to equally make provision for Human Rights Commission to be able to do something in the event that any of the orders given here has not been obeyed by the ministry.
Usually, Mr. Chairman, the Human Rights Commission has the powers when it makes awards to apply to the court for that award or orders to be, confirmed by the court. When that is done, usually the court will have the powers to enforce its own judgment.
Clause 23. Those in favor that clause 23 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 24. Those in favor that clause 24 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 25 stands deleted say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The new clause 25. Those in favor that new clause 25 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 26 stands deleted say aye. That clause 26 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 27. Those in favor that clause 27 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay.
In proceedings in an action, it's not an action for thought, in thought. In thought.
It's amendment, take note of that correction 27. Yeah. Those in favor that 27 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 28. Those in favor that clause 28 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 29. Those in favor that clause 29 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 30.
Mr. Chairman, clause 29. it talks about the yes, a person believes that it should be taken against him in reprisal for a protection disclosure may apply to the Federal High Court. We are saying that Federal High Court is not actually found everywhere. That it's probably better to have not just the Federal High Court, but to include the High Court of the state and equally FCT, so that we have, yes. We specify it here. Yes.
So, can you specify it for us?
The Federal High Court, the High Court of a state, or FCT.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that clause 29 as amended, that is to read that the person who believes that detrimental action is taken or may be taken against him or in reprisal for protected disclosure may apply to the Federal High Court, High Court of the State, or FCT. Those in favor that as amended stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 29 A and B. Those in favor that 29A and B stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 30.